When I say there's a Pokemon game out there where you get turned into a Pokemon, going around the world, battling, exploring, doing quests, there's probably a very prominent Pokemon spin-off that comes to mind. The PokePark games. These have to be some of my favorite Pokemon spin-offs. I played them when they came out and I enjoyed them both, but I haven't really hopped in since and I wanted to see if these games held up. So I dug up my copy of PokePark Wii from the depths of my closet and started playing it, and honestly, I enjoyed my time with it. The story starts with Pikachu and his friends playing around, and then a random hole appears and Pikachu gets accidentally pushed in. Or was it an accident? Are they hiding something? Did they actually want Pikachu to fall in? I mean, I think there's a non-zero chance. Anyway, yes, this game has a story. It's nothing complex or anything, just a tale about Pikachu helping the PokePark because everyone has stopped playing. And to do that, you have to go around the PokePark taking on various mini-games, otherwise known as attractions. I'll go more in depth on those as I talk about the various areas in the game, but I will say the overworld in this game I think is amazing. I actually like it a decent bit more than the overworld in any of the recent Pokemon games in terms of interaction. It feels very active and alive. Pokemon not only interact with Pikachu, but they also interact with each other. Like, so many times I would go around and see two Pokemon chasing each other, or just having a conversation. Hey bro, your shoe's untied. Thanks bro. Wait, what? But yeah, in the PokePark you also have an influence on the world that actually makes a physical difference. Some optional, some required, but I just love seeing a living, breathing world in a Pokemon game. Not a lot about it feels barren. And then you get to play as Pikachu, and I mean, if you need to relieve some stress, this is the game for you. To befriend the mini Pokemon in this game, you have to defeat them in a skill game. This game has 5 of them, my favorite being the battles. A lot of them are actually pretty difficult, and they simplified type immunities in this, so Pikachu's Thunderbolt doesn't work on ground type Pokemon or even grass types. Instead, you have to use Tackle or Iron Tail to damage them. The next is Chase, where you just chase around Pokemon. It's basically tag. These ones are sometimes very difficult, especially the evolutions, because they are super fast. The obstacle jumps are very uncommon and usually don't even take up the whole obstacle course, which is kind of weird. Hide and seek is extremely stupid in this game though, for the most part. The Pokemon is already on screen when you start the game, and they usually basically tell you exactly where they're hiding. And finally, who wants to battle, play tag, do an obstacle course, or play hide and seek? You know, all these fun games. It's the quizzes, man. It's always been the quizzes. And to be honest, these are actually somewhat difficult. And what I like about it is if you get a question wrong, the next time you try, the questions are usually swapped out for a few new ones, so it makes it seem much less redundant. Like, you don't have to repeat the try and just answer the same question a million times until you get it right, because you have new questions. And as a result of winning a challenge, you befriend them and they give you some berries, which are the currency of this world. You know what other series uses berries as a currency? Do 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 do. Come aboard and bring along all your hopes and dreams. One Piece. One Piece reference. Now, the game technically starts in the Meadow Zone, but I'll talk about the meeting place first, which is a nice central area of the map that gets bigger and more active as you progress throughout the game. I think it's cool to see how the atmosphere changes there throughout, but you don't have a hand in it. It just like automatically upgrades as you like complete the areas. So I wish you could have had a hand in that, you know what I mean? But this is the place where you upgrade all your moves, and also where this famous meme of Primeape saying he learned Iron Tail without a tail comes from.
Wait a minute!
I don't want to know how that happens, to be honest. As for this game's 8 distinct zones, I don't need to go in depth about all of them, but the meeting place connects to 5 of them. The first is the previously mentioned Meadow Zone. Then you go to the Beach Zone, which leads into the Iceberg Zone, the Cavern Zone, which leads into the Lava Zone, the Haunted Zone, and the Granite Zone, which leads into the Flower Zone / Sky Pavilion. Each place is pretty unique and has different Pokemon, and it's not even limited to just like water Pokemon for the Beach Zone or fire Pokemon to the Lava Zone. Sometimes there's like a flying Pokemon in the Water Zone or a Psychic type in the Iceberg Zone, you know what I mean? There's a decent variety of Pokemon everywhere. Atmosphere-wise, I think I like the Iceberg Zone or the Cavern Zone the best. The Iceberg Zone has a whole quest line where you decorate the tree, and the vibes are very Christmassy, which I really like. The Cavern Zone is very active. It has a lot of ground types and electric types. There's just tons of good Pokemon there too. Another one I like is the Granite Zone, which has a lot of really difficult challenges. Like, you have to play Chase against Arcanine, which took me like 1,000 tries to actually win. There's also a lot of fully evolved Pokemon like Charizard and Tyranitar, which are really fun to battle against. The main draw of this game though are the attractions, which basically involve doing a certain action and trying to complete the game in the quickest time possible. I actually tried to get the bonus score for all the Pokemon in every attraction, but then I forgot to save once and lost basically all of my progress on those, so I gave up. Yeah, whatever. But these attractions are really fun, and they're actually very popular in the speedrunning community. There's a lot of variety here, even if there are a few very similar attractions, because there are 14 different ones. Again, won't talk about all of them because there's a lot, but I will go through my personal favorites in order of appearance. The first is Bastiodon's Block Barrage. It's a lot like that game Block Breaker or whatever it's called. You know, kind of like Pong, but you just hit the blocks with a bunch of balls. But anyway, I love this one. It's really fun, and if you time it right, you can hit a power shot and get multiple points. Similarly, in the next area, you can play Blaziken's Boulder Bash, which you basically have to perfectly time your Wii Remote swings to destroy the rocks. I really like the timing-based ones, as you can see. Rotom's Spooky Shoot 'em Up is very ambitious for this game. Basically, you just have to shoot the ghost types before they reach you, but the hard part is that you always have to be aware of the Pokemon that are approaching behind you since it's a full 360. Salamence' Air Ace is very similar to Pelipper's attraction earlier in the game, but instead of flying through rings, you destroy targets, and I like both of these games a lot. Destroying the targets with projectile attacks is just very satisfying in my opinion. And finally, Rayquaza's Balloon Panic, which takes place entirely on a balloon form of Rayquaza. This one is actually really hard in the first part where you have to run across the balloons and avoid the electrodes, but once you get to the second part, it's pretty easy to get the hang of shooting down the targets. Sometimes I just go wild and get the high scores on the level even if I hit a million electrodes on the way. The game also has passwords that you can enter that make Pikachu able to participate in basically all the minigames that he wouldn't be able to otherwise, like Gyarados' Aqua Dash where he can use the surfboard, and Balloon Pikachu in the flying minigames. The other codes add in legendaries, but for the most part they're only really relevant in the attractions. Like I said, this game is more for the attractions, which is why speedrunners like it more. And now that we've talked about the attractions in PokePark 1, I think that's a good spot to start talking about this game, because it only has 4 of them. But honestly, I think PokePark 2 Wonders Beyond is the better game, and there are many reasons for this. The story is actually a lot better. Again, not peak fiction or anything, but yeah. Now if you thought, oh no, everyone stopped playing was a bit of a stupid plot, the world's about to be destroyed. In all seriousness, I don't really think the story is the reason you play either of these games. This game, however, has a major draw, and that's the fact that you can play as Pikachu along with each of the Unova starters. This adds so much to the gameplay. Each Pokemon has a different playstyle and different moves, and it also just makes it feel less stale, you know what I mean? Pikachu largely has the same moveset from the first game, Iron Tail, Thunderbolt, and Tackle. Oshawott knows Razor Shell, Water Gun, and can swim in water. Tepig knows Flamethrower, Heat Crash, and can destroy certain obstacles with Flame Charge. And Snivy can use Leaf Tornado and Leaf Storm and has the ability to double jump. My personal favorite of these 4 is definitely Snivy. Not only is it already my favorite Unova starter, but the double jump along with the fact that it's the fastest playable Pokemon make it the best Pokemon to quickly traverse the areas in this game. Which, I really love these areas. They're much less cut and dry than the ones in the first game. Instead of, hey, Beach Zone for water Pokemon and Lava Zone for fire Pokemon, with a few exceptions, I mean, like I said earlier, PokePark 1 does have a bit of variety. This game has 4 areas, which is a lot less than the original, but with much more complexity than just biomes. Like, it's not just water zone, fire zone, it's cove area or crag area, which I'm going to talk about. First is the cove area, which includes Seasong Beach, and this game's hub, Cove Town, which I think is amazing. This town is so active with Pokemon everywhere. There's off the beaten path nooks and crannies to explore. The music perfectly conveys this. You can even play soccer. Oshawott to take the penalty. He charges up and he makes the penalty. He scored. Goal! It's also where you upgrade your stats and moves on all your Pokemon. There's also this back alley area with a bunch of Corphish and a little machine where you can pay 100 berries to make everyone happy. Man, I wish we had that in real life, then I wouldn't need therapy. And before I move on to the other main areas, I should mention the Wish Park because it's a huge factor of this game, but I want to save it for after I talk about the rest of the areas. So first, let's talk about the Arbor area, which is probably my least favorite area in the game. I do like it though, it's very serene. I love all the grass types around, and it even involves a plotline with Zoroark, my favorite Pokemon. I wish it was shiny though. But yeah, this area doesn't really stand out to me like Cove Town does. It just feels like a Meadow Zone 2.0 2.0, and the other areas after this just have more for me to enjoy, like the crag area. See, this is what I'm talking about. Each zone has multiple sub-areas with their own different vibes. The crag area has Rock Ridge Fort, a rugged, stern area with Pokemon that want to get stronger, and after they're done training, they go off to the Coliseum, which is awesome because you can actually participate in the battle tournament that's held there. And it's very much like a battle tower scenario where you keep climbing the ranks, 10 rounds, 3 Pokemon each. This is one of my favorite mechanics in the game, and it's so simple yet so awesome. I think I like the crag area and the cove area more, but the final zone in the main game, the tech area, is very special to me. And that's because of the first sub area, the train depot. Just take a listen. This is so atmospheric, dude. It's so peaceful. I just love it so much. I'm literally listening to it while I record. I just can't get over how introspective and nostalgic this music sounds, which is crazy because I didn't even care about video game music when I played this at first. They didn't really do a day/night cycle for this game, but the stylistic presentation by giving you this onlooking bridge to look at the trains at dusk is just so beautiful. I honestly didn't expect something like this going into the game. Is it weird if this section makes me oddly emotional? I could listen to this song for hours and hours and hours. Alright, pausing the music now. The Unaware House and Sciatorium are not nearly as well presented as the first sub-area in this zone, but I do like the layered level design of the Unaware House. Can you tell I love the areas in this game? They each just have those little touches that make them feel so unique, even the Arbor area to an extent. And like I said, I'll take some time to talk about Wish Park, which I found to be very fun, especially some of the level design later on in the game. But if you're wondering about the attractions in this game, those kind of take a backseat because there's only 4 of them and they're all in the Wish Park. I think they're all a lot of fun. They're all more in-depth minigames. Each of them usually has 2 parts or 2 aspects you need to keep track of. For example, Cake Contraption, you play a whack-a-mole to get the pistachios from Patrat and then shoot the dough out of the air to make a cake. Power Bash is a timing minigame, but you also have to avoid bombs, etc. This game is not nearly as popular with speedrunners since none of the minigames are timing based. I like them though, but I have to concede that the first game did excel in that department. And if you haven't had enough, there's actually a secret zone exclusive to the post-game. That's right, this game has a post-game, and it's very fun. The new zone is called the Arcane area. I don't think this one is that special. It's connected to the Arbor area, so it kind of just feels like a natural extension of it, but it's just nice to have something like this because they didn't do it in the first one. Now the post-game is more just an epilogue that ties up the story of the main game, but it has you take on Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, which is really fun and really challenging, as well as letting you battle against Reshiram and Zekrom. The only major legendary you can battle in the original is Groudon. This game has 2 times the box legendaries. Let's go! You can also battle... I forgot to script that, but you battle... He's the final boss. Spoiler alert. These games both hold a special place in my heart. I played them both in my formative years of being a Pokemon fan, and they were among the first games I ever pre-ordered from GameStop. Having to beg my mom for a ride to pick up the game is a core memory of mine. But which one do I think is better? It's PokePark 2, no competition really. I'll put it like this. I think PokePark 1 is a fine game, and you'll get a lot of enjoyment from it if you played it as a kid. I had fun walking down memory lane, but I don't know if a first-time player at my age would enjoy it as much, maybe if they were a kid. PokePark 2 on the other hand is just a fun game. The mechanics are fun, being able to switch between 4 Pokemon helps the gameplay feel much less stale like I said earlier, and the world feels real enough to me because of the unique areas. I also just think this game was a lot more well polished. I can't think of a single thing the original does better, and then complement it with a much more realistic feeling world as well as music, which is a big part of video games for me, so if you're looking for a fun Pokemon spin-off game, play PokePark 2 Wonders Beyond. And if that's not enough for you to want to play it, you can commit murder!